What's up, guys? This is Naxxion back. Today I'm trying a new angle, see how this works, but I'm going to show off some of the Mitsurugi Nouvelle combos and synergy since there was a request to show how it's done. Basically, the core, you just want to play into what both decks can do and play into their strengths and the fact that they are both rituals that like to tribute. There is synergy in it. So I'm just going to show off a makeshift example of how you can bridge into the other. We'll show two cards. We'll do Diviner and just Chef. This is by far, this is a broken card, but I'll show you. Start by normal summoning Diviner. Diviner effect. We will send Herald of the Arc. We'll use Herald effect to now grab the Habakiri. Shuffle that. Now, before we actually activate the Habakiri, what we want to do, if we're not drolled or ashed by this point, we're now going to play Chef. We're going to use the Chef effect to grab the Restaurant. And then we will play the Restaurant down, and the Restaurant will search for a recipe card. Now, the important thing, because again, we're only working with two cards here, is we're going to grab the Broken Continuous spell that pretty much just fixes all the issues this deck had before. We're going to place down this. Now we're going to activate Habakiri. We're going to use the Habakiri to now, do Mitsurugi combo. So it doesn't really matter here what you tribute, because it just states to tribute a monster, but this case will tribute Diviner. Now, here's cool synergy with this. In a Mitsurugi match, they will pay $850 when they actually use the Habakiri as it is tribute off a monster, so this actually can play into time here. But, so what we've already done is now we made them pay $850. And now that resolves. So now, depending on what you need, we'll do Chainlink 1, and then we'll do Chainlink 2. Because that was tributed, we can now grab the level 1. And then affected that, we are now going to grab ourselves... Actually, yes. I'm overthinking. There's a lot to remember with this deck. So now we've grabbed ourselves a Mitsurugi Ritual. And now with the on-summon effect, we now use the Pulsineer to grab a level 1 or a recipe card. It doesn't really particularly matter in this instance, but just to show hand size, we'll just grab the level 1. You could grab the Chef Special Recipe, which is also a very valid thing that is an option for. But now we will play Mitsurugi Ritual, and we'll declare deck. So we will tribute this to go into our Broken Boss monster. And now we will do Chainlink 1. Well, actually, whatever you value here, but we'll go Chainlink 1 target because a monster was ritual summoned. Chainlink 2 to add a Mitsurugi card. So now what we got is we're going to grab, just for example, Great Purification. You can grab Magatama or Prayers, whatever your hand desires. And then, of course, with this, even if this misses, you still get the search. So that is really nice there. We will just grab the recipe right here. Now we have 3 cards in hand. We have that. And we still have a few more plays that we can do. So we will activate this. Now, of course, well, keep in mind here that this deck does play into Nib, but you do have ways of actually being able to deal with that. But we will play this, tribute this, and then, of course, on res, we will be able to grab the meat recipe. It's always nice to be able to get free cards when you're not drolled to death. So there's our meat recipe. So now we will go and do Chainlink 1, the level 1, Chainlink 2, Chain blocking is so important in this deck, it's unbelievable. We will now activate 5 to see if we get a Nouvelle. And a Nouvelle that we do in fact have. We will just grab the level 3. One very important thing to keep in note is you want to have access to, in this main deck, because I'm not playing the 4, you want 3 or 6 in hand, because Chef can, if your board gets broken, can just summon that and you can play again. I learned that one extremely late. But we can continue to play on even more. So now you can use the Pulsing effect to target the level 1, because now we control the ritual. And then, of course, important, we'll do the quick effect. We'll tribute both of these. Your opponent now has to pay yet another $850 in order to, you know... well, they just have to pay $850 because the broken continuous spell is just making them do stuff that they don't want to do. And, of course, we get to draw one more card. And we just drew pre-prep. But yeah, I know it can be a little weird because, you know, it depends entirely on the stuff that you are drawing. But since we did draw pre-prep, we may as well use pre-prep. And believe it or not, you want to grab, in this particular instance, Mitsurugi. Even though you could get more Nouvelle stuff and push with it, there is just some things that you can do here that matter quite a bit. So we will grab out these. Now here is the parts to really start to keep in mind. If you wish to continue further with this play, which you absolutely can, you have still only a few options left for the turn. You could, again, we've done all this with 2 cards. We've gotten all this advantage. You still have the field spell to be able to put this back to draw 1 card. But again, you want the Chef to be live because when it specials, you want to force this and you want to break their board. You want to play on their turn. Even though you can build quite a strong board, it's up to you. Now, what I actually like to do here, because I like to play just a tad greedy, is because you're not locked, we'll get these off and go into an SP Little Knight. It's a little high up there. Sorry, I still suck at like actually setting this camera up to, you know, be able to see everything. But we get the SP Little Knight, and the reason you want this is because now when I will choose to do the greedy play, because we did draw the pre-prep here, we can do the mirror to tribute this, to summon out that, and then of course we can do Chainlink 1 and then Chainlink 2, shuffle it back, special this out, and of course we're just going to plus again. And now the reason that I'm okay with doing all this, because even if they nib now, SP will protect. You will plus off this. In this current instance anyway, you will plus off it. The Pulsing being here and not being able to bring it back actually isn't really that much of a consequence in this case. You already have ways to be able to actually just keep going. But even though it doesn't look... And this actually is often the case for... Nouvelle, is you sometimes actually playing this don't want to end on it. You want to summon it after. One thing I've found against other Mitsurugi matches, we have a pure Mitsurugi duelist. He just kaiju's the board and it's game over because he placed everything out there. You want that element of surprise the same way that a Vanquished Soul K9 player does as well, where everything is kind of like in the hand. So if you don't put everything on the board, first of all, you don't lose to everything. It's a gamble. Just be very careful about how you want to sequence these plays. So in this particular instance, I'm going to simply just set 2 here. I'm going to keep this in hand. I still have this in hand, plus the other cards that you might have in hand. We go to end phase of turn. We use this effect. We're going to use that to grab. Now, it just depends, but I'm going to just return the ritual, as there are just many times where you just want to hard search that, as you have ways of getting back. And you drew. It doesn't matter what you draw. But off 2 cards, you... in this particular instance, right? I mean, it can get a little cloudy with pre-prep and all that, but, you know, in essence, 2 cards got us all that. We have follow-up in the hand. And actually, it's still not really the end of the world that we don't have the level 6. The 3 is fine. I prefer the 6 because the negate matters. But 3 is also good if you can time it well and your opponent plays into it. They, right now, they don't have much to worry with the Nouvelle stuff. But, you know, you have this, the specialing, which can come up to record resources. Even if it's just to add bodies back, which is fine in itself. You have the negate, the reborn, because we did search off with prayers, so we can respecial that. We have the negate, and that's also follow-up for next turn. And even if not, so the way that you want to sequence this correctly in theory, if you don't have access to any Nouvelles in hand, so you want to bait absolutely everything before you do the chef. Chef should be the very last thing you do. So we'll say we use SP effect, SP, banish. We use effect to negate, and then we say, okay, we're going to tribute. And it negates something, and then of course we will use the effect of this, special that out. But now here's the good part, kinda. So, assuming you have absolutely nothing in hand to summon a Nouvelle, you can now use this effect to hard search the level 3 or 6. Again, I mean, you can, if you're playing main deck 4, that is also now an option for you, but I think 6 is just correct. Also, of course, you're plussing 2 because the Mitsurugi cards are dumb. So, in a play like this, when it's summoned, hard summoned like that, you now can use that because it's anytime a ritual is specialed to now add this. Now let's say this board is still dealt with. Well, now you can special chef, and they have to now respect the chef or play into it. And again, you still have follow-up. But assuming you don't have to worry about it, and let's say this just gets popped and popped, we special out chef, and then we can just now use the effect. We'll just banish this in ham. Tribute this. So now we can do chain link 1, chain link 2, and then we can do this. And then affected that, tribute the board. We're plussing crazily. The idea, actually, a lot of the times, is you either go big or you play very low to the ground because you want to generate the advantage over time. If you get drolled while you're currently breaking the board, it can suck quite a bit. So we're just going to get a free search. We're just going to search for the level 1 because I'm only just showing chef places itself back onto the board, and you get the draw 1, and then of course you have the on summon effect to add, so we'll just grab the level 6 in this instance. But now it's also a quick effect, and your opponent has taken another 850, and you still have the prayers. So I mean, assuming that all is going kind of well, you could also just play prayers to reborn, maybe something like that, if you know your opponent's going to keep going, so you can special that. Of course, maybe by that point you've used the Raigeki, but all I'm saying is you're playing on their turn. This is the thing that I emphasized a lot, that I think this deck could do very well in this format, is simply because it actually is able to keep up with the opponent. It does not have one-card combos. There is technically a downside to playing the Mitsurugi version over the Fiendsmith version. I will get the cards to just show that. But I like the Mitsurugi because the cards naturally combo off each other. Even if you draw the hard names and, you know, you still have the other Nouvelles, you're plussing and you can practically just get into your deck for free. And, you know, if you have a very, very good hand, you can just play around and then wait for the Mitsurugi stuff at the end or Nouvelle, depending on the matchup. But just saving that at the end just does wonders. Now, with the new time rules that are announced, it can definitely hurt the deck quite a bit. As one thing that it does is if it gets to play the game, it's going to just sometimes take a while. I'm not really going to sugarcoat that. It can take a while, and it's very difficult to pilot. When I was playing this at my locals, everyone was boasting our Vanquish Soul player, but I don't think they could fathom how resource-wise you have to keep track of stuff, especially if you're not in the best position. But let me just show the big thing about why Fiendsmith does have one natural advantage over Nouvelle. Because you actually can get a one-card combo, but I don't think it does enough. Because I was asked about that. So, in Nouvelle, you have this right here is a one-card combo for your Fiendsmith stuff. So, you would normal summon this, use effect of that to grab the Miracle Raven, place the Miracle Raven down, and then use the Miracle Raven to tribute, to special itself out. Attack or defense, doesn't matter. Effective pulls in near target. And then you would just get these two off to go into Moon. And then you would just do regular Fiendsmith shenanigans. Now, here's my issue with the just Fiendsmith. First, Fiendsmith doesn't have real synergy with Nouvelle at all. Its M board is fine, but both Mitsurugi and Fiendsmith play into Droll. But the M board that Mitsurugi puts up can naturally be benefited off just ritual summoning your Nouvelles. Whereas when you get DDD Highwave King Caesar, that is not really synergetic. Also, Fiendsmith tracked, while yes, it can search Chef, and in my opinion, Chef is the most important card in the deck. It does just literally everything for this deck at this point. Because it's a pendulum, you're always going to be down exactly one body for your Mitsurugi plays. Your Nouvelle plays. So you're always going to be down the one body, and you have to find a way for it. Engraver doesn't feel particularly great either. While there is graveyard stuff that you can do, and you do get to make better use of the extra deck, which in all honesty, I could just fill up the rest of this extra deck with just cards that get sent. As again, we have a pure Mitsurugi player who plays Maximus, so I could just surprise there. But point being, while you can make better use of the extra deck, and you actually also do lock yourself out of, and in my opinion, this card is just nuts. The Culinary Confrontation. Because if you draw Fiendsmith plus this card right here, you have to decide in this turn, what am I going to use? Because this will essentially lock you out of the extra deck. It practically does. There's just not enough monsters you put on the board. And the times that you do, you're almost only ever going to summon SP or Dynamundo, as either you're breaking a board, setting up, you're going to try to tribute to Reborn, or SP to protect your plays from Nib, or just get another interaction on the board. So all that, I just think Mitsurugi is better. You could see that even tributing their monsters, and again, if you play correctly, you get plus off it. They reborn themselves, so it's free value. You get to add a card, and they have immediate board presence. You need to deal with the Mitsurugi stuff like immediately. Whereas if I'm playing into this, I normal summon that. I waste my precious search for Miracle Raven, which again, I'm not going to hate on Miracle Raven, because it is nice that Miracle Raven does actually allow for a one-card combo, but it just feels super nimble. And if you usually get the level 1 pen over here, it's because you're committing for SP to protect an established board state or Dynamundo, but it feels really bad when you risk it all, and then a simple Ash for the Requiem can just kill that. I'm not saying that it wouldn't hurt the ritual part, but at least you could continue to play your engine going forward. But yes, I just think the Fiendsmith stuff just doesn't complement this deck. even though it is a one card combo, you also have Habakiri, and again, Habakiri just is a dumb card, and you could just plus off that anyway. And the natural synergy is there, but my main thing is you get to play Culinary Confrontation, which this should be a 3 of, because this card just it does a lot if your opponent lets this resolve. It shuts down cards like Imperm, it stuffs cards like the Charmies and other specific cards that require your opponent to yourself to not have cards on the board. So it's also a quick play. So that means you can shotgun this and draw a phase and just do a bunch of shenanigans. If your opponent's just going to blindly drop Fualos or Prelia, you just immediately play this. And also, it's great too because Prayers is that, so you can just get your cards without having to play around. You get a few searches before you get drolled, and that's huge for this deck. Also, like I said in my Mitsurugi first place, you can just banish this to force interactions out. It's so critical that you just have the ability to play with this deck. You need to push and actually be rather aggressive. I've found that being passive with this deck doesn't do it. And a new philosophy of mine when actually playing is I view all the Mitsurugi and basically Nouvelle rituals as boss monsters. Every single one of them has like a boss monster effect to itself, which allows this deck to be able to go first and second. I'm still debating on what is actually better. I do think first might be better, but I still need more testing. The format is still very young. There's still a lot of decks to go against. There's still Yummy. There's still Vanquish Soul K9. There's just K9 variants. Draco Tail might exist. But I do think this deck still has that potential, even with, it not being clearly the best ritual deck in the room. But actually, so long as Mitsurugi is around, this deck gets a huge buff that it desperately needs. It's not even that pure is bad. You just need that extra versatility and that free advantage that you need to naturally generate, because your deck can be a little cumbersome when it actually comes to starting that up and grinding with it. But I promise that this works. This miraculously works. I can't fathom how consistent Mitsurugi feels and how well it complements and plays. I'm not saying this is going to be like a meta tier deck, but it can definitely take on the meta decks. And if you're piloting correctly, and unless you're going against just a player who's playing perfectly, which is not really possible because we all make little mistakes here and there. But so long as you know what you're doing and managing your resources, you're going to be able to do just fine. You can take advantage of so much unique interaction that doesn't really exist before. And this doesn't really feel like a Nouvelle in general. It's just not a deck that's really explored or talked about. I think a lot of people still put it off as, it was that deck that came out with the Vanquish Soul a few years ago. But I think even then, Nouvelle had some things going well for it. The second wave support, when you got the level 1 and the Culinary, were huge deals for this deck. And the fact that this deck now does not need to play Enemy Controller, and listen, I have no disrespect for Enemy Controller, I love that card, but the fact that we can move past that now and we have extra ways to combo and break boards and play well into time, at least until we figure out as of making this when those damn time rules are actually going to be in place, or if Konami's going to scrap it like other things. But until that point, I think this will be the deck that I'm going to be playing most in Justice Hunters format. I might experiment with my K9 cards in here with playing a little engine, as I actually think one of the main issues I don't like with this current build is the Charmies feel really bad. And the reason you play it is because they're the Charmies. They can just deal natural with a lot. But I don't really want to side them in. But they feel really bad. Well, the thing you do when you are actually playing this deck is you want to naturally draw a lot of cards. But the perk is that you draw into usable hand traps. Even Nib is a usable hand trap because you're playing the Mitsurugi cards, which means you are not screwed. And it gives you a body. So if you have Chef in play, you can just tribute that Nib and, make the best use of it. I can't explain enough. But it's a double-edged sword. If you're not playing these can just hard counter turns. But if you draw into one, they're practically dead. The only thing they have of value is the level. So I'm thinking, this video is losing its track, but I'm just kind of talking about Nouvelles at this point. I'm thinking of Shocker playing the Canine package, because then you can at least draw into Azuna, and then Azuna can dump the Lupus, and while you would only add one brick, it does stop the potential just drawing now maybe 6 more bricks if you don't see any, as this is a very tight-knit deck. But, for 4 cards, you can take out 2 and probably put another draw or put Ashes in. I still believe the hand trap variant is correct, because interactions matter a lot. And the one weakness, and like Nouvelle when it first came out, is you basically show your hand. You show everything. If your opponent knows what your deck does, they know exactly everything that you've established. Because you have to be so resource heavy to get more cards, and you have to play so much engine. Not that that's really a complaint. I prefer engine decks over non-engine. I just think it's more interesting. You still need room for some non-engine. And I can't tell you how good of a feeling it is when you draw into a draw or you draw into a nib. And just you have that. Now your opponent can greedily play their game, and now you can just sit on that as well. Of course, there's skill involved, because draw can interfere with your plays because you like to +2, but if it hurts your opponent more, in my philosophy, it is worth it. So I think this will be the deck that I'm going to be mostly focusing on during this format. I really just want to... I was a late starter for Mitsurugi, but Mitsurugi adds so much value to Ritual just in general. Interactions and stuff with like Magatama and, level 4 being really nice to be able to side in as well. The fact that all the Nouvelles in some way are a boss monster with a very credible effect. And I was wrong if I didn't mention it. I was under the impression this whole time for years, that's how bad I can't read. I thought the level 3 and the 4 had the target cards to tribute. Actually, they don't target. They just tribute. But they do activate if something on the field is targeted. So that makes these cards infinitely better. I have been playing this deck on Duel Links, and I just never noticed that. I can't tell you how... I have no idea how I'm able to pilot this thing. I really don't, if I'm doing dumb-headed mistakes like that. But yeah, that's why I'm under the impression now that this deck... You're just playing a bunch of small boss monsters. It's actually like one of the things I liked about Kashtira is it was a deck where it feels like you're just playing a crap ton of just really, really good boss monsters that gives the deck the ability to go first and second. So, yeah, I'm very happy about the state of this deck. Of course, if Mitsurugi gets hit, this deck gets hit badly. Because I frankly don't want to play any other variant except just the Mitsurugi. I want to try the Dogmatica stuff, but Dogmatica, if I'm not playing the hand trap variant, I could play that. Of course, there's a few issues too with just playing that, but I digress. Just doing a regular old combo. I do this all the time. I will play tests like this in person and online just to memorize these combos. You know what's surprising is a lot of people actually just don't practice their decks. They wait till locals. That just confuses me. See, we did nothing there. That's fine. Do pre-prep. Unfortunately, with a hand like this, we actually can't combo too crazily, as we actually are unfortunately drew them one of mirror. How embarrassing! Truly, The most embarrassing thing ever, and you only play the one. It will happen. You will get awkward hands like this where, oh, no. Whatever. Stuff like this will happen. It is a ritual. That's why, there's a reason it's not a meta. You will sometimes just draw unplayable hands like that, but, you still technically can do stuff here. You pass your turn, and you're going to quick tribute that, special this. Look on the bright side, at least, for maybe even a hand like this. Your opponent will now have to board wipe this or non-target deal with it, because attacking or that will just be punishing. But yeah, I guess this video is awful. I'm just ranting about nothing, but I do think overall, when you just don't draw the mirror, this deck is actually just insanely good. Except for Yummy, a lot of the non-engine will go down this format, but I hear very mixed things about Yummy as it is. But, with a format that, in theory, will have less non-engine being played, Mitsurugi does actually stand more of a fair chance, as it's just one of those few modern decks that just has to have so much engine into it. Like, you have to play the 2, because there's times where you won't get the continuous and you'll need it, and it's too risky to just side because the spell can change the attack. You need to play one of continuous. You need to play the recipe and all that, so you can establish a board, and just little stuff like that to consider when playing Nouvelle in general. But I am going to definitely be playing this, giving maybe another update for this, see if anything comes up, any tech options. But yeah, for everyone that has been playing Nouvelle and for the positive comments that I've gotten, I thank you, and I'm glad that I could get some more people to actually invest in this. This is definitely an S tier deck. This is definitely a top 5 favorite deck of all time for me. I think Ritual is a very fascinating mechanic, because it doesn't have an identity anymore, so you get to just do cool stuff like this, and you get to play with some of the most broken cards ever because the mechanic is so horrible, but you get to do some of the coolest things because the mechanic has literally no identity anymore. But yeah, for everyone out there that's just looking for maybe, whether it's a video I'm making or just some advice or whatnot, I do think Mitsurugi has it. Of course, there's still probably a few more things to fine-tune. Personally, I have been thinking since the last video I uploaded that maybe I should add another copy of the level 6, as there's times where the level 5 will be on the field and you kind of need the 6, but you got the 6 back. The thing about the field spell and actually not playing this is there's just times you're going to have many resources just in the grave, and because you're going to slowly get those back, it can hurt, but you play double copies, so that usually doesn't matter. But the 2 5s work out beautifully. And this is 60 cards, so it's really difficult to decide, hey, what would I cut for this? I've already made a lot of cuts in general. But again, if that Azuna engine came in, I could play the Nash Knight, or what's that? Rank 5 Ripper. I could play with the Ripper, and I could just play Typhon and all that kind of good stuff there. So then I would have options for the extra deck and also be able to cut and maybe be able to throw in another. But until that point, this is just another kind of rant video. It's probably not as good as the original, but I did get to explain just a few things about why I think Fiendsmith is a little inferior. The Dogmatica stuff, I will just briefly say, just does lock you out of the extra, and while that's not the end of the world, sometimes it does matter a lot because Dynamondo and SP are about the only two cards you actually summon currently in this build. IP, I mean, going into Unicorn, just hardly, if ever, comes up. Typhon is just wishful thinking. It's just there because sometimes you're going to break so badly you just need to out the detonator and, you know, whatever. You know what I mean, though? But yeah, let me know what y'all think. Is there any text that you're doing? What are your ratios? Let me know. Thank you.